So chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita is transcendental knowledge. Let's start with text 1. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Vacha
Imam Vivasvate Yogam
Imam Vivastate Yogam
Proktavanaham Avyayam
Prokhtavaham Avyam
Vivaswan Manave Praha
Vivaswan Manave Praha
Manur Ikshvakave Bhavet.
Manur Ikshvakave Rupit.
So the personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god, Vivaswan, and Vivaswan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind. And Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. So this shows that Bhagavad Gita is very old. It was related 120 million years ago by Lord Krishna to Vivaswan, the sun god. So initially it was delivered to the Devatas and later on it was delivered to human beings. So at that point where the human beings are, Bhagavad Gita doesn't tell us. But 120 million years ago, Krishna gave this information to Devatas. So Devatas are supposed to be on various heavenly planets like sun, moon. There are so many other heavenly planets which are higher up. So that's what it is said. So it's not like this information is fairly recent or it's modern or anything like that. Okay, so Venkatesh, can you read the purport?
Yes, Anish. Herein we find the history of Bhagavad Gita traced from a remote time when it was delivered to the royal order of all planets, beginning from the sun planet. The kings of all planets are especially meant for the protection of inhabitants, and therefore the royal order should understand the science of Bhagavad Gita in order to be able to rule the citizens and protect them from material bondage to lust. Human life is meant for cultivation of spiritual knowledge in eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the executive heads of all states and all planets are obliged to impart this lesson to the citizens by education, culture, and devotion. In other words, the executive heads of all states are intended to spread the science of Krishna consciousness so that the people may take advantage of this great science and pursue a successful path, utilizing the opportunity of the human form of life. In this millennium, the sun god is known as Vivaswan, the king of the sun, which is the origin of all planets within the solar system. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated, "Let me worship Lord Brahma," said the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, who is the original person and under whose order the sun, which is the king of all planets, is assuming immense power and heat. The sun represents the eye of Lord and traverses its orbit in obedience to his order. The sun is the king of the planets, and the sun god, at present of name Vivaswan, rules the sun planet, which is controlling all other planets by supplying heat and light. He is rotating under the order of Krishna, and Lord Krishna originally made Vivaswan his first disciple to understand the science of Bhagavad Gita. The Gita is not, therefore, a speculative treatise for the insignificant mundane scholar, but is a standard book of knowledge coming down from time immemorial. In the Mahabharata, we can trace out the history of Gita as follows. In the beginning of the millennium, known as Treta Yuga, the science of the relationship with the Supreme was delivered by Vivaswan to Manu. Manu, being the father of mankind, gave it to his son Maharaja Ikshvaku. the king of this earth planet and forefather of the Raghu dynasty, in which Lord Ramachandra appeared. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita existed in human society from the time of Maharaja Ikshvaku. At the present moment, we have just passed through 5,000 years of Kali Yuga, which lasts 432,000 years. Before this, there was Dwapara Yuga, and before that, there was Treta Yuga. Thus, some 2,005,000 years ago, Manu spoke of Bhagavad Gita to his disciple and son Maharaja Ishwaku, the king of this planet Earth. The age of the current Manu is calculated to last some 300,000 years, of which 100,400,000 have passed. Accepting that before the birth of Manu, the Gita was spoken by the Lord to his disciple, the sun god Vivaswan. A rough estimate is that the Gita was spoken at least 120,400,000 years ago. And in human society, it has been extant for 2 million years. It was re-spoken by the Lord again to Arjuna about 5,000 years ago. That is the rough estimate of the history of the Gita, according to the Gita itself, and according to the version of the speaker, Lord Sri Krishna. It was spoken to the sun god Vivaswan, because he is also a Kshatriya and is the father of all Kshatriyas who are descendants of the sun god or Suryavamsha Kshatriyas. Because Bhagavad Gita is as good as the Vedas, being spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this knowledge is aparvaseya, supernova. Since the Vedic instructions are accepted as they are, without human interpretation, the Gita must therefore be accepted without mundane interpretation. The mundane wranglers may speculate on the Gita in their own ways, but that is not Bhagavad Gita as it is. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita has to be accepted as it is from the disciplic succession. And it is described herein that Lord spoke to the sun god. The sun god spoke to his son Manu, and Manu spoke to his son Ikshvaku.
Yeah, so basically here the tradition is given. Lord gave this knowledge to sun god Vivashwan, and sun god spoke to his son Manu. And the mathematics is given here. Age of Manu is so much, out of which so much time has passed, and at the beginning of Manu's being created, this knowledge was given, right? So therefore, at least 120 million years is when Gita was spoken. But in the Deva Loka. So, and in the human Loka, at least 2 million years ago, it was there. And most recently, it was spoken 5,000 years ago. So, human beings have been around for a very, very long time. Not like Charles Darwin's theory that human beings only came on this planet fairly recently, less than 1 million years ago. That is not true. So human beings have been around here for a very, very long time, and devatas were there even for a longer time, right? So most of the Westerners say that this whole Vedic civilization is only like 3,500, 4,000 years old. That is not correct. They have easy access to fossils and bones from that period. Doesn't mean that that's the only time human beings have been around. Like in one of my other class around forbidden archaeology, I talked about how human bones were found in strata which were 2 million years old, 500 million years old, a billion years old, and even they found artifacts produced by humans 2 billion years old. So human beings have been around in a smaller quantity even back then, 2 billion years ago. So some of these Western textbooks need to be rewritten based on in the light of this Vedic revelation, because all this information was being passed back and forth. between the Lord and the Devatas and humans. But most recently, it was spoken 5,000 um, years ago, maybe 5,100 years ago, to be precise. So, the history of Bhagavad Gita is given in the Mahabharata Shanti Parva, right? Treta Yugadau Chatatho Vivaswan Manave Dadao Manuscha Lokabriti Artham Sutaye Kshava Dadao Ikshvaku cha Katito Vyapya Lokan Avastitaha. So, this information is there. It's been there during the time of Vivaswan, he mentioned here, Ikshvaku, Manu. So, in this lineage, it is coming down, right? So, from the Lord to Vivaswan to his son Manu, Manu to his son Ikshvaku, and then he's also the forefather of the Raghu dynasty in which Lord Rama comes. So, yeah, Lord Rama is there in Surya Vamsha and Lord Krishna came in the Chandra Vamsha. Those are the two primary Vamshas of this humankind. There are other things that are mentioned, but they, like Agni Vamsha and all that, but those are all branches of these primary Vamshas. So there, everybody has to come in these two Vamshas. We are also there in one of the two Vamshas. So ultimately, what it means is the Supreme Lord is our Father. He is the beginning of the chain of command. All right. So it's not like God is just an energy or something like that. No, He is our forefather. So Karthik, your friend didn't come today. Chandar.
Oh, okay. Let me message
Yeah,
him.
ping him. Thank you. एवं परंपरा प्राप्तम्
एवं परम्परा प्राप्तम्
इमं राजर्षयो विदुः
इमं राजर्षयो विदुः
सकाले नेह महता
काले नेहमता
योगो नष्टः परन्तपा.
योगो नष्टः परन्तप.
The supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. So there is a chain of disciplic succession, but this chain was broken. So what is the chain? Krishna gave it to Krishna gave it to many people, like we talked about the chain from Vivaswan, and that is more the Devarshi chain. Then there is the human chain, where he gave the Kshatriya chain, where he gave it to Arjuna. And then there is the whole Acharya chain, like when the Lord gives it to Brahma, Brahma gives it to his son Narada, Narada gives it to his disciple Vyasa. So there is multiple chains in which Krishna is giving this knowledge. Okay, Sheshdev, please read.
Purport. It is clearly stated that the Gita was especially meant for the saintly kings because they were to execute its purpose in ruling over the citizens. Certainly, Bhagavad Gita was never meant for the demonic persons who would dissipate its value for no one's benefit and would devise all types of interpretations according to personal whims. As soon as the original purpose was scattered by the motives of the unscrupulous commentators, there arose the need to re-establish the disciplic succession. 5,000 years ago, it was detected by the Lord himself that the disciplic succession was broken, and therefore he declared that the purpose of the Gita appeared to be lost. In the same way, at the present moment also, there are so many editions of the Gita, especially in English, but almost all of them are not according to authorized disciplic succession. There are innumerable interpretations rendered by different mundane scholars, but almost all of them do not accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, although they make a good business on the words of Sri Krishna. This spirit is demoniac. because demons do not believe in believe in God, but simply enjoy the property of the Supreme. Since there is a great need of an edition of the Gita in English, as it is received by the Parampara, disciplic succession system, an attempt is made herewith to fulfill this great want. Bhagavad Gita, accepted as it is a great boon to humanity, but if it is accepted as a treatise of philosophical speculations, it is simply a waste of time.
Yeah, very, very good points, right? As soon as the original purpose was scattered by the motives of unscrupulous commentators, means people who don't have scruples, they will twist the meaning any which way they want. So there is the need to re-establish the disciplic succession. This parampara has to be re-established, right? So 5,000 years ago, Lord himself detected this. So he started a new parampara, starting from Arjuna. And even today, there are so many editions of Gita, but none of them are according to authorized disciplic succession. They are mundane scholars, means they will just do some scholarship on that activity. But that spirit is demoniac. Like, people use the property of Krishna, right? And then they make a business out of it. Like Deepak Chopra will do seminars on the Bhagavad Gita, like saying, modern marketing from ancient scriptural principles, like that. He'll charge like $40,000 a day. So they're using the words of God to do some business, but they are not really serious about following it. A person who is really serious about following it will basically chant Hare Krishna, engage themselves in seva of the Lord and other living entities, helping them with, help to teach them the Bhagavad Gita so that they can also be liberated, like that. That is a genuine devotee. A non-genuine devotee, they'll just make business out of it. Because if they create their own book, not many people will follow it. But they will use Krishna's book and they'll take those principles and present it as if they were their own principles. And worse, they manipulate it, right? They will start changing it. They'll say, okay, maybe it is like this, maybe it is like this. So that way they confuse the audience, right? So unscrupulous people will not get the benefit. Sa evayam maya tedhya yoga prokta puratana
Yoga Prokta Purana.
Prokta Puratana,
bhaktosi me sakha cheti
Tosmi se Saka se Cheti,
rahasyam hi uttamam.
Rahasyam hi etaduttamam.
So this is very interesting. Krishna says this is a rahasyam, means this is a secret. Not everybody will know this, and it still continues to be a secret till day, right? So there are a lot of Vedic literature which will give you information, but that's not really ultimate beneficial. They'll say, okay, if you do this puja, I'll get so much money. If you do this puja, I'll get a good wife or a good husband, right? Like they say, if you worship Durga, you'll get a good husband. And if you worship Shiva, then you'll get a good wife, like that. If you worship Indra, you'll get a lot of power. All these are there in Srimad Bhagavatam. So, those kind of worship is not ultimately in our good. Okay, you'll get a good wife, good husband, you'll deal life for some time and then you'll die. Real welfare means we have to think about what will end our cycle of birth and death and take us back to the spiritual world. Right? So what is Lord saying? This very ancient science of the relationship with Supreme is told by me to you because you are my devotee as well as my friend. So he says here, right? Bhaktosi me sakha cheti. You are a bhakta, devotee, and you are a sakha, friend. Sakha is a friend. Sakhi means a friend in the female gender. Sakha, sakhi, like that. Gopa, gopi. Okay, Karthik, please read the purport.
There are two classes of men, namely the devotee and the demon. The Lord selected Arjuna as the recipient of this great science owing to his being a devotee of the Lord, but for the demon it's not possible to understand this great mysterious science. Therefore, there are a number of editions of this great book of knowledge. Some of them have commentaries by the devotees, and some of them have commentaries by the demons. Commentation by the devotees is real, whereas that of the demons is useless. Arjuna accepts Sri Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and any commentary on the Gita following in the footsteps of Arjuna is real devotional service to the cause of this great science. The demonic, however, do not accept Lord Krishna as he is. Instead, they concoct something about Krishna and mislead general readers from the path of Krishna's instructions. Here is a warning about such misleading paths. One should try to follow the disciplic succession from Arjuna and, thus be benefited by his great science of Srimad Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, so we should not get confused, but follow this disciplic succession. So just as I said, right, it went to from Krishna to Brahma, Brahma to Narada, Narada to Vyasa. So we come in that Vyasa parampara. And Prabhupada also is in that parampara. So we are connected to Krishna. So whenever there is parampara, there can still be a little bit of manipulation, but largely you'll get the knowledge as it is. Right? So when you get the knowledge as it is, it will have effect. Because Krishna said, if you do X, Y, and Z, then you'll come to me. So we just do X, Y, and Z. But most people, what they're doing right now is they're taking Bhagavad Gita and they are using it on how you can be rich and how you can be successful in the material world. While material success is somewhat okay, you are missing the point. You are not getting liberated from the cycle of birth and death. You'll stay here. So in order to not stay here, life after life, you have to follow the principles of Gita fully and correctly. So that's the message here, right? They are commentaries by demons. If you read that right, they will give you the exact wrong interpretation. Like I know I, read some commentaries on the Gita. So in that commentary, they say you should not worship Krishna, but the Krishna within. What is that? When Krishna is saying Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo, I am the source of all the material and spiritual worlds, he's saying you should not worship the person Krishna, but something within him. So these are all like the strange commentaries which confuse people actually. Or it says you just have to worship the energy, forget Krishna, like that, right? So yeah, I mean, whenever there is an important man, there's a lot of news and buzz around that person. But the person is what is causing all that, right? It's not just like the energy around him. So these people say just worship that energy or Brahmajyoti. So those are called Brahmavadis. And then there is a different class called Mayavadis who say, hey, you are Krishna, I am Krishna, we are all Krishna, worship each other. So they go about calling Narayana, Narayana to each other. They'll say, you are Narayana, I am Narayana, everybody is Narayana. So those are called Mayavadis. And then there is one more class called Aham Grahopasaka. Aham means I, Graho means focused, Upasaka means worshipper. So they say, everybody worship me because I myself am God. And that person will worship himself. Aham Grahopasaka. So there's a whole, supermarket of religions. So people who worship the energy, people who worship themselves, people who call each other Narayana. So in this way, there is a whole supermarket of religions and the real thing has to struggle for attention. For example, Jesus said, I am son of God, but now people are saying Jesus himself is God. So that is one other challenge, right? In Islam, they say God doesn't have a form, he's just energy. So that is one other form. So in this way, the real relationship with God is lost. All these pseudo fake conceptions are capturing people's attention, and the real thing is just competing for attention. But the real thing is there. Krishna says, Yes, there is a spiritual world, there is a material world. I live in the spiritual world. I come down for avatar periodically. If you do these activities, you can come to me. If you do these activities, you will go away from me. All these things he is very clearly saying. But people only pick and choose what they want. That is the biggest challenge. So when they pick and choose, they miss the point. Arjuna Uvacha
Arjuna Vacha
Aparam Bhavato Janma
Aparam Bhavato Janma
Param Janma Vivasvataha
Param Janma Vivasvataha
Katam Etad Vijaniyam
Katham
Katham
etad vijaniyam
Etatvijanam
Tvam Ado Proktavaniti.
Tvam
Tvamado
Adu Proktavanti.
proktavaniti.
So Arjuna had a doubt that we will more likely have. He's saying sun god Vivaswan is been around for so long, right? The sun is there for a long, long time, right? Even before Arjuna, even before Arjuna's father, even before Arjuna's grandfather. So he's asking Krishna, sun is older than you, so how could you have dictated him this Bhagavad Gita? Very valid question, right? Okay. Rashesh, they've read this.
Arjuna is an accepted devotee of the Lord. So how could he not believe Krishna's words? The fact is that Arjuna is not inquiring for himself, but for those who do not believe in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or for the demons who do not like the idea that Krishna should be accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For them, only Arjuna inquires on this point, as if he were himself not aware of the personality of Godhead, or Krishna. As it will be evident from the 10th chapter, Arjuna knew perfectly well that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the fountainhead of everything, and the last word in transcendence. Of course, Krishna also appeared as the son of Devaki on this earth. How Krishna remained the same Supreme Personality of Godhead, the eternal original person, is very difficult for an ordinary man to understand. Therefore, to clarify this point, Arjuna put this question before Krishna so that he himself could speak authoritatively. That Krishna is the supreme authority is accepted by the whole world, not only at present but from time immemorial, and the demons alone reject him. Anyway, since Krishna is the authority accepted by all, Arjuna put this question before him in order that Krishna would describe himself without being depicted by the demons, who always try to distort him in a way understandable to the demons and their followers. It is necessary that everyone, for his own interest, know the signs of Krishna. Therefore, when Krishna himself speaks about himself, it is auspicious for all the worlds. To the demons, such explanation by Krishna himself may appear to be strange, because the demons always study Krishna from their own standpoint. But those who are devotees heartily welcome the statements of Krishna when they are spoken by Krishna himself. The devotees will always worship such authoritative statements of Krishna because they are always eager to know more and more about him. The atheists who consider Krishna an ordinary man may in this way come to know that Krishna is superhuman, that he is Sachidananda Vigraha, the eternal form of bliss and knowledge, that he is transcendental, and that he is above the domination of the modes of material nature and above the influence of time and space. A devotee of Krishna like Arjuna is undoubtedly above any misunderstanding of the transcendental position of Krishna. Arjuna's putting this question before the Lord is simply an attempt by the devotee to defy the atheistic attitude of persons who consider Krishna to be an ordinary human being, subject to the modes of material nature.
Yeah. Arjuna is asking this question so that Krishna can reveal the truth. And even in future, like 5,000 years after, we are still reading this knowledge and we are trying to understand what is Krishna's position. Usually, what atheists and general population, they'll study Krishna from their own angle. If they are 6 foot tall, they'll think Krishna is also 6 foot tall. And if they like something, they'll say Krishna also likes this or dislikes this. But we have to understand Krishna from the scriptural perspective, from what he is. What is a scripture? Scripture is just documentation from the past, it's history. So, if scripture says something, somebody smarter than us has documented it for us, and we have to use it. So you can question it, but you have to question it in a constructive way. Oh, why did Krishna say like this? It's not like, oh, did Krishna even exist? Yeah, I mean, if somebody says you don't exist, how do you feel? Right? You say, yeah, I existed. Maybe 100 years later, if somebody says Karthik didn't exist on this planet. So if you hear of that news, in whichever planet you are, You'll be very surprised. Hey, I existed there. Why are people saying I don't exist? Same thing. When Krishna came 5,000 years ago and it's documented, people are saying, no, he doesn't exist. It is the unborn within Krishna that we have to worship, or something like strange notions. There is a complete spectrum of different beliefs, almost like a million different religions out there. But you have to see the scriptures and what are scriptures saying. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Srivagamanuvacha
Bahuni me vyatitani
Bahmuni Veditani
Vyatitani
Janmani Tavarjuna
Janmani
Janmani
Pravachatana
Tavapetani
Manyaham Veda Sarvani
Anyaham
Anyaham Veda Sarvani
Natvam Veta Parantapa.
Natvam
Natvam
Veda
Veta
Parantapa.
Parantapa.
The personality of God is said, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them. But you cannot, O subduer of enemy. Right? In the Brahma Samhita, we have information of many incarnations. It is stated, Advaitam Achyutam Anadimananta Rupam Adhyam Purana Purusham Navayavvanam Cha Vedeshu Dhurlabham Adhurlabham Atma Bhaktau Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So it said, I worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead Govinda, who is the original person, absolute, infallible, without beginning. Right? So Govinda is the original person. Although expanded into unlimited forms, he is still original. Like so many avatars come out of him. Like for example, if you have $100 in your wallet and you give me $10, you give one of your classmates $10, you will have only $80 left. But it's not like that with Krishna. Although many avatars are coming out of him, he is still Purnam. Right? He is the same original, oldest, and the person always trying to appear as a fresh youth. Such eternal, blissful, all-knowing forms of the Lord are usually not understood, even by the best Vedic scholars, but they are always to manifest to the pure, unalloyed devotees. Right? So same thing is said in Ishopanishad also. Om Purnamadam Purnamidam Purnam Purna Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Purnam. Krishna is Purnam, full. From full personality, full forms come out. Purnasya Purnamadaya. They come out. But Purnamevavashyate. The full personality doesn't get any diminished. So it's as if like you had $100, you gave $1,000 to everybody, and you still have $100 in your wallet. And it's not possible in material science. It is possible in transcendental mathematics. You can do more than what you have, and you still have what you originally had. That is transcendental mathematics. Right? So he is the same original, the oldest person. Adi Purusham. Adi means the first person. Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Right? So there is also stated in the same Brahma Samhita, Ramadimurtishu Kala Niyamena Tishtan Nanavataram Akarod Bhuvaneshu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramah Pumayo Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So I worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead Govinda, Krishna, who is always situated in various incarnations such as Rama, Narsimha, and sub-incarnations. Like Dattatreya is considered a sub-incarnation. People worship in Maharashtra and Karnataka, Dattatreya. He's not a full incarnation, he's a partial. So there is percentage, right? Like nobody is full as Krishna. Krishna is 100%. Even like Rama is only like 94% or something like that. And everybody else will be less. Like Narsimha may not be as full as Rama. Like Varaha and Kurma, they come in like partial incarnations. So they just like come as an animal or a bird like that, right? So they are only like maybe 80%. Human being is about 64% according to Chaitanya Charitamrita. in the form of the Supreme Lord, right? So there is nobody's as much as Krishna. So we are also expansions of Krishna, but not 100%. We'll have the same qualities as Krishna to the extent of 64%, roughly. Again, the mathematics is given in Chaitanya Charitamrita if you are interested in the precise arithmetic. So, who is always situated in various incarnations, such as Rama, Narasimha, and many sub-incarnations as well. But who is the original personality known as Krishna, who also incarnates personally. So once in a while, he comes down. So this is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. So in Srimad Bhagavatam it is said, Ete chamsha kalapumsha Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mridayante Yuge Yuge. Yuge Yuge. He comes in every yuga. But Ete cha amsha. Amsha means every avatar is just an amsha of the Supreme Lord Krishna. So we are not talking about the Krishna, the Gokula Krishna who came here. Although he is the same as Goloka Krishna, we are talking about Goloka Krishna, from whom all these millions of incarnations come out. So even Gokula Krishna is technically not 100%. He could be like 99.9% of Krishna. So to know the original Krishna, you have to go to the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan. Right? So Shastra, it is called the triangle of verification. What is the triangle of verification? A triangle has 3 konas, right? That's why it's called Trikonamati. You heard this term, Trikonamati, from which comes trigonometry. Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. Right? So these are the 3 konas. Is there like a triangle thing in PowerPoint? Maybe not. So these are the 3 konas of a same truth. So whatever Guru says has to be confirmed from Sadhu and Shastra. Whatever Sadhus say have to be confirmed from Guru and Shastra. And whatever Shastra says has to be validated by Guru and Sadhu. Is this saying correctly or is it a misprint? Right? So you should always verify. So when I'm saying something right, you should do your independent study. When I'm saying that this is there in Brahma Samhita, this is there in Rig Veda, you should go and verify and say, is it really there? Or is this person just making up stuff? Right? So you should always verify what is there in Guru, what Guru is saying, what Sadhus are saying, and what Shastras are saying. Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. So this is called the triangle of verification. Of course, if you don't have time, you better listen to me. But you should have time and you should go verify. Because there are so many scriptures out there that you can verify and cross-validate. Right? Right here, there is a scripture. What is Prabhupada doing? He is not saying, I think Krishna is supreme. Then people will say, why should we listen to your thinking? So he's saying, I am not thinking. Brahma is thinking. Brahma Samhita. Right? Ramadimurtishu kala niyamena tishtan. This is what Brahma dictated. And that was captured in Brahma Samhita. Like that. Right? And then this other verse, other line of this shloka, it says what? Bahuni me vyatitani. Means many of my lifetimes have passed. For Arjuna, you don't remember all those lifetimes, but I remember all those lifetimes. And then what does he say? He paraphrases this from the other shloka from Bhagavad Gita itself, cross-reference. Vedeshu dhurlabham adhurlabham atma bhakto. Dhurlabh means very difficult. Adhurlabham means you cannot decipher what's going on just by reading Vedas, not by a simple study of Vedas. Right? So the Lord descends, but you cannot understand him. You can only understand him through the distilled essence of Acharyas, like Swami Prabhupada, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, to a certain extent even Jesus. Although Jesus himself said that I didn't give you all the information. There is so much more to be said, but you are not ready. Because who was the audience for Jesus? Carpenters and businessmen, right? Fishermen, carpenters, businessmen. So how much can you tell them? They were not really ready. So you only said, don't lie, don't steal, don't cheat. He left it at that. He didn't give advanced knowledge of the soul. Although he mentions soul in a few places, which was documented by his disciples in the Bible. Bible, of course, is not written by Jesus himself. It was his disciples. 12 disciples have 12 chapters in the Bible, like that. But Bhagavad Gita is directly spoken by the Supreme Lord. And same thing with Quran also, documentation by various people. So Arjuna in a different capacity was also present in when Lord was giving this knowledge to some god Vivashwan. This is amazing, right? Because Arjuna is a devotee, he follows Krishna whenever Krishna incarnates. So Arjuna in a different capacity was also present. But the difference between the Lord and Arjuna is Lord remembered the incident, whereas Arjuna could not remember, just like you and me. We don't remember anything from our last life. Once in a while, you may get a little hint and clue in your dream. But you will not really understand what it is, and you'll quickly forget and you'll quickly dismiss it. Right? Okay, Chandra, can you read from here? That is the difference.
Hare Krishna. That is the difference between part and parcel living entity and the Supreme Lord. Although Arjuna is addressed herein as the mighty hero who could subdue the enemies, he is unable to recall what had happened in his various past births. Therefore, a living entity, however great he may be in the material estimation, can never equal the Supreme Lord. Anyone who is a constant companion of the Lord is certainly a liberated person, but he cannot be equal to the Lord. The Lord is described in the Brahma Samhita as infallible, Akyuta, which means that he never forgets himself, even though he is in material contact. Therefore, the Lord and the living entity can never be equal in all respects, even if the living entity is as liberated as Arjuna. Although Arjuna is a devotee of the Lord, he sometimes forgets the nature of the Lord. But by the divine grace, a devotee can at once understand the infallible condition of the Lord, whereas a non-devotee or a demon cannot understand this transcendental nature. Consequently, these descriptions in the Gita cannot be understood by demonic brains. Krishna remembered acts which were performed by him millions of years before, but Arjuna couldn't, despite the fact that both Krishna and Arjuna are eternal in nature. We may also note herein that a living entity forgets everything due to its change of body, but the Lord remembers because he doesn't change his Sachinananda body. He is Advaita, which means there is no distinction between his body and himself. Everything in relation to him is spirit, whereas the conditioned soul is different from his material body. And because the Lord's body and self are identical, his position is always different from that of the ordinary living entity, even when he descends to the material platform. The demons cannot adjust themselves to this transcendental nature of the Lord, which the Lord himself explains in the following verse.
Yeah. So here he talks about demons, demons, demons. Actually, we are all demons until we become a devotee, right? These descriptions in the Gita cannot be understood by demonic brains. What is a demon? Demon doesn't mean that you have two horns and you drink blood, although some demons do. But demonic brain means you're always having this challenging attitude against God. Right? Demonic brain means you'll say, oh, maybe God didn't exist. Maybe it's all an imagination. Maybe I came from chemicals. Because some of the scientists, right, they write books. Yeah, we mixed a bunch of chemicals and human beings. I mean, like life came. Life doesn't come from chemicals. Life comes from life. In my YouTube channel, I did a recording, Life Comes from Life, based on a book by Swami Prabhupada, right? He says, no matter how many chemicals you mix in the laboratory, you cannot produce life. Life has to come from life. Even Dolly the sheep, they take the womb from one mother, they inject into the other mother, and then the baby comes from that other mother. It's not like you are artificially creating Even the so-called test tube baby, what do? They take some enzymes from the mother, they take some sperm from the father, mix it in a test tube, and once they fertilize, they inject it back into the mother's womb. You cannot have a baby in a test tube. That is a misnomer, misconception actually. So ultimately, you need the safety of a mother's womb for a baby to grow. So the demons, that's what they think. This can be done, that can be done. Right now, like, a lot of people from traditional Brahminical families in India come to America and they become demons. When you ask them to read Bhagavad Gita, they say, oh, we don't need to read that. All we need is Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, those 4 or 5 techies, and they will take us, to the next world or whatever. They will make us rich like that. But the Elon Musk will die, Jeff Bezos will die, Bill Gates will die, Buffett will die, everybody, all these people are ordinary people. How can they save you? They cannot save you, right? They may invent something so that you can make, instead of $100 an hour, you'll make $150 an hour in IT field. That's all you can do, maximum. Because they are doing this innovation, and if you learn that technology, you will be in demand. But they cannot save you. So that is demoniac brain, means that God is optional, right? A lot of people say, like one time one lady was saying, "Hey, why do you have to go to temple all the time? Once in a while you pray, huh?" Like she's giving me advice that I should not pray to God every day, once in a while. And she was giving even better theory. God is everywhere, right? Then why do you have to go to temple? Yeah, God is everywhere. Pacific water is there in Pacific Ocean, but are you going to go to Pacific Ocean? You will drill a backyard well and you will pump water from there. It's not like every day you will drive to Pacific Ocean or Atlantic Ocean and fill your back truck with seawater. Then you do desalination, take out all the salt. In your backyard, if you drill a well, you'll get water, right? So it's like that. When God is accessible easily through his Archa Vigraha, means where you worship the Vigraha form, then why do you have to go this beating around the bush, right? That is demoniac brain. They always want to complicate things. Actually, religion is very simple, but demons complicate it so much that people don't even want to think of religion, right? And of course, people fight in the name of religion. So people say, oh, religion, no, people, it's bad because we'll fight. But if you don't fight on the basis of religion, then you'll fight on the basis of something else, right? Then if somebody is a lesbian, you are not, then you'll fight with that person. And somebody is gay and you are not, you'll fight with that person. So you'll find a new reason to fight. So fighting is natural. So people fight with God. That is demon. That's all, right? Devata means people who are cooperating with God. They're also not perfect, because if you're perfect, you are not in this material world. You'll be in the spiritual world. Devatas are also not perfect, but at least better than demons. At least they are not fighting with the Lord. They are cooperating with the Lord. But once in a while they get tempted. Like Indra is the Devata. But he'll get tempted. He will go after Ahalya or somebody who is some sage's wife. He'll do some hanky-panky here and there. So although he's good, 80%, he still has a little bit of issues. So devatas may have issues, but they're still better than demons because they are working with the Lord's, will of Lord, right? Like one Christian made one, image in Bing. You can see that. So he put like 2 wooden pieces cross. He said, "My will, God's will," and they are at 90 degrees to each other, orthogonal. So we should be aligned with God's will. That's all you have to do. You don't have to do anything mega. Okay. Any thoughts, questions? Ajopi san avyayatma
Yopi san Avyatma,
bhutanam ishwaropi san
Kotanam Ishwaropi,
Amishwaropi san
prakritim swamadhisthaya
Prakritim Swamajitaya,
sambhavami atma mayaya.
Sambhavami Atma,
Sambhavami atma mayaya. So he comes from his own internal maya. Atma maya. Sambhavami means he manifests. Comes is like a very light word. Sambhavami means actually manifest through the process of incarnate is more of a Western term. Avatar is more of the Eastern term. Ava means descend. Taran means walking around. Avataran means Lord descends and he walks around. But when he walks around us, we don't realize he's God. We think that he's a very beautiful, tall, handsome, good looking person. Because he's very beautiful, he's very tall, he's very handsome. But we don't give him the position of God in Avataran. Like Duryodhan was looking right at Krishna and he was arguing with him that no, we should fight in the battle of Mahabharata. Right? And there used to be one person who used to wear two artificial hands. And he was saying, I am Vishnu. And he was telling that right to Krishna. He was looking Krishna in the eye and saying, I am Vishnu. He had two artificial hands on the top. Just like Vishnu has four hands, right? Like that. So there are foolish people even during the time of Krishna. And even Charvaka Muni, Basmi Puta Deham Kutaste. It's like after you Basma, after your Deham means your body burns, what is left? Nothing is left. There's no concept of karma. He was a sage 5,000 years ago in India, right? So it's not like all sages are God conscious. Some of them are demon conscious also. Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear every millennium in my original transcendental form. Okay, Venkatesh, can you read this, please?
The Lord has spoken about the peculiarity of his birth. Although he may appear like an ordinary person, he remembers everything of his many, many past births, whereas a common man cannot remember what he has done even a few hours before. If someone is asked what he did exactly at the same time one day earlier, it would be very difficult for a common man to answer immediately. He would surely have to dredge his memory to recall what he was doing exactly at the same time one day before. And yet, men often dare to claim to be God or Krishna. One should not be misled by such meaningless claims. Then again, the Lord explains his prakriti or his form. Prakriti means nature, as well as swarupa or one's own form. The Lord says that he appears in his own body. He does not change his body as the common living entity changes from one body to another. The conditioned soul may have one kind of body in the present birth, but he has a different body in the next birth. In the material world, the living entity has no fixed body, but transmigrates from one body to another. The Lord, however, does not do so. Whenever he appears, he does so in the same original body by his internal potency. In other words, Krishna appears in this material world in his original eternal form with two hands holding a flute. He appears exactly in his eternal body, uncontaminated by this material world. Although he appears in the same transcendental body and is Lord of the universe, it still appears that he takes his birth like an ordinary living entity. And although his body does not deteriorate like a material body, it still appears that Lord Krishna grows from childhood to boyhood and from boyhood to youth. But astonishingly enough, he never ages beyond youth. Okay, sorry. At the time of the Battle of Kurukshetra, he had many grandchildren at home, or in other words, he had sufficiently aged by material calculations. Still, he looked just like a young man, 20 or 25 years old. We never see a picture of Krishna in old age because he never grows old like us, although he is the oldest person in the whole creation, past, present, and future. Neither his body nor his intelligence ever deteriorates or changes. Therefore, it is clear that in spite of his being in the material world, He is the same unborn, eternal form of bliss and knowledge, changeless in his transcendental body and intelligence. Actually, his appearance and disappearance are like the sun's rising, moving before us and then disappearing from our eyesight. When the sun is out of sight, we think that the sun has set. And when the sun is before our eyes, we think that the sun is on the horizon. Actually, the sun is always in its fixed position, but owing to our defective, insufficient senses, we calculate the appearance and disappearance of the sun in the sky. And because Lord Krishna's appearance and disappearance are completely different from that of any ordinary common living entity, it is evident that he is eternal blissful knowledge by his internal potency, and he is never contaminated by material nature. The Vedas also confirm that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is unborn, yet he still appears to take his birth in multi-manifestations. The Vedic supplementary literatures also confirm that even though the Lord appears to be taking his birth, he is still without change of body. In the Bhagavatam, he appears before his mother as Narayana with his four hands and the decorations of the six kinds of full opulences. His appearance in his original eternal form, in his causeless mercy, bestowed upon the living entities so that they can concentrate on the Supreme Lord as he is, and not on mental concoctions or imaginations, which are imperfectionist wrongly thinks the Lord's forms to be. The word Maya or Atma Maya refers to the Lord's causeless mercy according to Vishwakosha dictionary. The Lord is conscious of all of his previous appearances and disappearances, but a common living entity forgets everything about his past body as soon as he gets into another body. He is the Lord of all living entities because he performs wonderful and superhuman activities while he is on this earth. Therefore, the Lord is always the same absolute truth and is without differentiation between his form and self or between his quality and body. A question may now be raised as to why the Lord appears and disappears in this world. This is explained in the next verse.
Yeah, so Lord is the same absolute truth, Satchidananda Vigraha, without differentiation between his form and self. So his Atma and his body are the same. But for us, our Atma and our body are two different. And his qualities, like his qualities of, for example, kindness or opulence or any one of his, broad range of qualities, and his body are not different. So his body, quality, and soul are the same. For us, our body, quality, and soul are different. That's the only difference between us and the Lord. Otherwise, he has feelings, we have feelings, right? We get our feelings from him. Our feelings come from him. So therefore, what should we do? We should align our activities with that of the God, right? And right now, all of our activities are 90 degrees to activities of God, right? We wake up when we are not supposed to wake up. We sleep when we are not supposed to sleep. So much going on in this world, right? So aligning our activities with that of God's activities. Like if you look at traditional Brahmins, all they used to do is from morning till evening, wake up, cook for the Lord, do an arti, again cook, rest for a little while, again wake up, take bath, again cook for the Lord. The traditional Brahmins in temples, that's what they used to do. And people used to make fun of them. Don't you have anything better to do? Actually, that is the thing we are supposed to do. 24/7, think of the Lord. Of course, since they are pujaris, they are only doing cooking and arti. But since we are not in that platform, we should still work for the Lord, but in a different way, right? So you may give this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to someone, distribute books, Bhagavad Gita to friends and family, so that they can also benefit. Even if they lead a little bit and improve their life a little bit in this lifetime, mission accomplished. Next lifetime, they'll do a little bit more. So one lifetime 1%, second lifetime 2%, third lifetime 3.5%, like that. But their journey towards the ultimate destination is going on, right? There rarely will you see anybody who will make a big leap in one lifetime, right? So we are not like Ramanujacharya or Madhvacharya in one lifetime make a huge leap. Not possible. For the vast majority of us, every lifetime will make one step at a time, some progress. But you have to make progress. It's like swimming upstream, right? If you are not making progress, then you are retrogressing, means you're going back. So when you're swimming upstream against material energy, you have to make progress. Otherwise, you are going back, surprisingly and unfortunately. Right? So any questions on this one?